back at the Israel Strategy Conference, and I'm very pleased to interview Aharon Cohen Mohliver from London Business School, who made a very fascinating presentation today on deception in entrepreneurial ventures. And I wanted to talk to him about it. So, Aharon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
And thank you for organizing this whole conference.
It's good to organize. It's also good to present.
Yes, indeed. So tell us a little bit about this paper. I thought it was a very interesting paper, a little bit about the origin of it and your work.
Yes, indeed. So the origin of it is in an email I received from a colleague of mine who's an ethnographer saying, "Hey, Aharon, we're studying deception in startup companies. Do you have time to talk?" And of course I had time to talk because we don't have any research about deception in startup companies for obvious reasons. They're too small, data is not being collected, definitely not thoroughly, and it's very difficult to study deception. So what we ended up with is two ethnographies, parallel ethnographies, of two organizations. I'm not going to tell you what organizations. Imagine it is Nikola and Theranos.
Right.
And that you have someone embedded in Nikola and someone embedded in Theranos for 3 years and 4 years, respectively. Different industries, different decades. And what we found was that in both of these organizations, there was huge deception happening, and none of the theories that we had could explain it. So we created a theory of deception in entrepreneurial ventures.
Great. So I think that would be a good moment to talk about the findings of this. What were some of the things that you found in terms of your new theory here?
So I think that the new parts of deception that happened there, and you need to think about this. You need to think about this not in what makes Elizabeth Holmes lie in Theranos, or what makes Nikola's CEO lie, but rather what makes that one employee at the end who was towing a truck up a hill so that it would slide down the hill without an engine. That's what we're trying to explain. How an organization of 1,500 people is all geared towards perpetuating a deception. And what we find is fascinating. You have these organizations that are founded to create some fantastical future. Right. And solve some intractable problem, revolutionize healthcare, solve climate change. And when you have these narratives that are so big and so amazing, you have organizational members starting to create little deceptions that pile on to the big deceptions that they have. We actually do have a car that has zero emissions when we don't have a car that has zero emissions. Right. So we see this happening in the organization more and more over time. More organizational members experiment with, it's a hybrid car, it's an electric car, it's a hydrogen car. And that just persists over time until you end up with a box, like in Theranos, a box.
Right.
That is supposed to do 1,000 blood tests from a single blood drop, but there's nothing under the box. It's an empty box.
Yes, I think that's very interesting. And to me, I think another part that I found interesting was this idea of deception is something that you already did, that you talk about rather than a forward-looking, maybe this is going to happen. And I think this also relates a lot to the Theranos case because, they tried to frame it in their defense as, no, this is all forward-looking stuff. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of it was actually what you would call deception here.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, right? So we think fake it till you make it is about predictions about the future. We're going to create a machine that's amazing. Many times you have organizations, entrepreneurial ventures, faking stuff, as in lying about stuff that is happening now. If you say you have a machine that does X and there is no machine, that is deception. It's not being optimistic. It's not having a vision. It is deception. And that's a crucial part. That's a crucial thing that differentiates what happens in these organizations from some of the stuff that we see in startup companies that, exaggerate their future impact.
Right. And so why should we care about this research in the end?
Yes. I think this is the first ethnography into deception in startups. Startups being so impactful and so big, this allows us to start and develop a toolkit to see whether the organization is going down a slippery slope that's going to end up with a Theranos or a Nikola or an FTX, or is it just doing the normal, hype of, we're going to have a good product. Once we have that toolkit, we'll be able to stop these things from escalating. I think that's super important.
Yeah. So let me thank you very much for taking the time talking with me today.
Thank you, Chris.